Hi, this is Ron Nutter, and welcome to another edition of Tech Bites with Ron Nutter. This time we're going to be dealing with our good friend, the Peplink B One 5G router. Now, what we're going to work through this time is also for the B1 as well, because the only difference between the B1 and the B1 5G is the 5G's got a cell modem in it. But this process worked through of upgrading the firmware, and I'm going to show you a little different way of doing it that you I think are really going to like. So let's go ahead and get started. Here's what we're going to be covering in today's video with the 5G and the non-5G version of the Peplink B One firmware upgrade. Now, first thing we're going to talk about are the required items. Then we'll go into the pre-upgrade tasks. Then we'll actually do the firmware upgrade. Then we'll follow up with a few post-upgrade tasks just to make sure that everything's ready for you. First thing we're going to cover is the required items. Now, for the purposes of this video, this is going to be focusing on the Peplink B One and the B One 5G. This may work on other Peplink devices, but I've only got the 51G in the lab, so this one I know will work, but you may be able to get this to work with some of the other devices. The first thing to deal with is going to be the tasks we need to complete before doing a firmware upgrade. What I suggest doing is going in through here. Now, in my case, I'm using Wi-Fi as WAN, so we will disable that because I want to minimize any traffic passing through the device while we're doing a firmware upgrade. Now, having just disabled mine, I've now cut myself off from the internet on the device, so I've got to temporarily go back in. And in my case, I have to leave this enabled because that's my only access. So if you were to use something like just a wired connection, then you'll have to leave at least leave that active so you can get to the firmware. So we're connected back up on the Wi-Fi WAN link into where my internet connection comes in. So the first thing to do is we'll go over here to the System tab. We'll go down here to Configuration, and then we will download a configuration. I know this will probably seem like overwork, but config, and it doesn't matter where, but I would have a standardized directory. And if you're making a lot of changes, I would make a configuration backup prior to the change, make the change, and then if it looks like it's working right, make another one after that. You're going to have a little bit of duplication in configuration backups, but all it takes is one file not being able to be read, and then you will kind of wish you'd done it. So we will just give it today's date, and then we will click on Save. Okay. Now that's done. So we'll go up here to firmware. Now it says firmware check pending. I've had that happen anytime I've disabled the WAN interface and re-enabled it. It says pending. So I'll just click on check for firmware. And see, it says a new version is available. So we'll click on download and upgrade. And see, it's telling you to download the active configuration before upgrading. Now, so it's nice to have some confirmation on that one. And it says the router will reboot. So we're going to lose our connection. So you want to try to do this at a time. You're going to minimize the impact for everyone. And if there is no good time, you're just going to have to pick a window and tell everybody, hey, we're going to be down for a little while. So don't come knocking if you can't get to the outside world. So we'll click on the OK button. And okay, must not have been a big upgrade. Of course, it was an what I'd call an incremental, because we went from 840 to 841. Okay, so it's going to take about 2 minutes. That's not bad. All right. Okay. It hung at 79%. It didn't warn me that it was rebooting, which would have been nice. And we'll double check that one. Okay, and everything appears to be okay. Let's go under System, Firmware. Okay, it's on for 841 now. So the only statement I'll make there is it would have been nice to have gotten a warning message that it was rebooting. My indication that it had stopped was it stopped at 79%. Of course, I'm on a wireless connection, and with the firmware upgrade being finished and it appears that the servers were okay, this is where we now need to go through and do some validation or verification that everything is all right. So for all the WAN connections that you had disabled, if you're running more than one, go ahead and re-enable those. Do, the best way I can hear of it is do a stare and compare and make sure everything looks the way it did prior to the upgrade. So just a review of the settings. Any tab you've normally been in on is a good one to take a look at. Network, you probably haven't made changes to other than in basic or the initial setup. If you're getting into some of these areas, then yes, you should know your configuration reasonably well so that you're prepared for that. AP will be something only if you've done any changes there to where you've turned off band steering, or you've got different SSIDs with different passwords. Again, only if you've made changes do you need to worry about it. A review of it is still a good idea. Now we can click on status and we can go down here to WAN quality, and then we will pick on Wi-Fi on 2.4, which is what I'm running on. So it appears, nothing, we had a little bit of latency burp, but that's probably where it was rebooting itself during one change. Again, nothing is standing out. If we do, no, okay, everything else looks to be okay there. I've deliberately kept my configuration a little bit on the Spartan side. So now we'll go back through. We verified that we're on the new firmware. So after you've gone through and done a verification, validation, pick your verbiage, that everything is all right, now is when you go back down to the system tab and then click on configuration, and then we will, now I've got a new option down here. It's another good reason to go through and step through things. It says configuration from high availability pair. That if you're playing with high availability, which is basically you got two of these, one's active, one's standby, yeah, you really are going to be dealing in a different world. And I've dealt with high availability. It's kind of interesting. So we will download active configuration, just like you did before. And I can click on the other title here, but I will just change the title to post upgrade config. Again, just in case, I've had this happen one or two times over the past several years, to where a firmware upgrade changed how the config file was handled. Not often, but this is why you want to do a before and after configuration backup, just in case. Plus, if you did have a hardware failure, you now have a file, you just upload it to it, reboot it, and you're up and running. So this is another reason that you want to do configuration upgrade. So we'll click save. That's it. That's all there is to it. But doing just a firmware upgrade, you need to really take it to the next step and do a before upgrade backup and after upgrade backup, just to cover yourself. I know you're going to think it's wasted time. It really isn't, because it's that one time in 10, one time in 100, when not having that is going to save you a lot of work to get things back to where they were. So write this one down, bookmark this video, and come back to it. So when you start doing upgrades and haven't done it for a while, you can go back, use this as kind of a template on what you go from. You can decide, okay, you'll back it up just before the upgrade, and then you'll do it, on whatever criteria you're comfortable with. But the thing is, really consider doing config backups before and after firmware upgrades, and I would even extend that out to when you make significant changes like going into multiple SSIDs where you're turning off band steering to where one SSID is only on 2.4, one's only on 5. You really want to have yourself covered on that one. So give this a try, take a look at it, and I don't know about you, but I'm enjoying my my Peplink B1. It's or B1 5G. I'm impressed. This is stuff I had not expected to see, these kind of features in a device that's initially targeted at Soho or higher markets. So Peplink did good on this one.